This year's fight for the right to repair your own stuff is on, with bills in at least 25 states and public hearings about right to repair in Washington and Illinois state last week. Right to repair activists are optimistic about 2022.
House Bill 1810 relates to regulations on original manufacturers of digital electronic products and the access to repair options for those products.
What was most exciting about this hearing was actually who wasn't there. Specifically, Microsoft. Microsoft's headquarters are in Washington state, and every time a right to repair bill has been introduced there before, Microsoft's lobbyists have been out in full force. This time, though,
I'm so excited to say that not only the repair advocates have been at the table, but Microsoft has also. Microsoft is now neutral today, and for us, that's a really big win.
And it's true. A major electronics manufacturer not fighting against a bill like this is a big deal. Manufacturers have restricted repair to all sorts of things, by controlling access to spare parts, by requiring proprietary tools to open cases, and by claiming that making repair instructions public, they'd be giving away trade secrets. How to change your phone's battery shouldn't be a trade secret. Conveniently, repair restrictions also let manufacturers keep a monopoly on repair, which means they can set prices wherever they like and push you to buy something new instead. The Washington bill would require manufacturers to make parts, tools, and repair information available to independent repair shops in January 2023 and to individual consumers in January 2024. Representative Mia Gregerson, the prime sponsor of the bill, explained how the pandemic has made right to repair essential for kids in underserved school districts.
This bill became even more obvious when the pandemic hit us a couple years ago. I was already working on closing the digital divide, and overnight we realized that we had over 1 million kiddos in the K-12 system trying to learn remote for the first time in history. While we had laptop drives and we used some of our federal dollars to purchase tens of thousands of devices, as you can imagine, 2 years later, those devices are going to need some repair. And for every day that those devices are out of the hands of our children, they're missing a day of learning.
President of the School Directors Association, Sandy Hayes, echoed this concern.
Many students throughout the state, both in rural and urban areas, have limited access to hardware, software, and the internet. This includes availability and affordability. So much of the student work is done on devices that these students will continue to be part of what we call the homework gap. It will take close to 10 years before we have the funds to replace a current device. I am not here to ask you for the money. I am asking, but rather that you would keep our costs down by allowing districts and students to do minor repairs.
Gregerson explained why right to repair is important from an environmental perspective.
This bill is good for the environment. We know that every single day in Washington, over 8,700 phones are thrown in the garbage. They're just not usable. You can imagine that this bill alone will be kinder to our earth, kinder to the environment, by just keeping the phones working just one more day longer.
Nicole Walter of Washington Public Interest Research Group has some of the same concerns.
Right to repair is about choice. If you personally would never even consider taking your device to a local repair shop instead of the manufacturer's authorized repair shop, right to repair is still beneficial. It makes sure that the manufacturer is kept honest by requiring them to compete with other providers. And for folks who don't live anywhere near the manufacturer's store, right to repair is a lifesaver.
Mitch Kramer, who started Fixco's cell phone and computer repair out of his bedroom a decade ago, spoke on behalf of independent fixers who are afraid they're being pushed out.
As an independent shop owner, I've been watching right to repair for years, knowing that if we don't do something different, if we don't get right to repair legislation passed, we're all going to be out of business. That's thousands of us across the country.
But it's more than just repair shop owners who are concerned. Cybersecurity expert Tara Wheeler spoke about why right to repair is important for all tech employers.
As an employer in the state of Washington, I need a pool of curious minds unafraid to experiment and learn in tech. If manufacturers restrict the right to poke around in their devices to only those people who have their explicit blessing, our bright young engineers will have to move to Silicon Valley to learn how iPhones work.
Patrick Connor of the Washington State Small Business Owners Association, which represents independent repair shops and manufacturer authorized service centers, found that
our balloting so far shows nearly 64% of our small business members are in favor of this bill, which is a more than 3-to-1 margin over those who are opposed. Based on these results, NFIB is pleased to support House Bill 1810 and encourages the committee to approve it.
The opposition mostly stuck to the same tired talking points.
Consumers currently have a variety of professional repair options, including independent repair providers or a manufacturer's authorized repair network.
Sometimes that's the choice between one Apple store 100 miles away and another 200 miles away. It's not much of a choice.
It would mandate that manufacturers of digital electronic equipment provide unvetted third parties with sensitive diagnostic information, software, tools, and parts.
You know, sensitive diagnostic information, like the fact that your iPhone has touch disease. The critics also offered the usual overblown claims about battery safety.
The temperature of a lithium-ion battery during thermal runaway can exceed 600 degrees centigrade. And these events can occur due to mechanical damage, improper handling, poor battery design, inadequate safety features, or manufacturing defects.
In 2019, the FTC found that manufacturers consistently overstate the risk of thermal runaway. The FTC unanimously agreed that there was, quote, scant evidence to support manufacturers' justifications for repair restrictions. Charlie Brown of the Consumer Technology Association tried to make it sound like he'd been open to negotiation and repair advocates had been unreasonable.
We appreciate that this bill is before your committee once again this year. Unfortunately, we are still opposed to this legislation. We had hoped that we might be able to reach some consensus with the advocates on a national basis. And in fact, Consumer Technology Association initiated a dialogue with the repair advocates this fall to find some consensus that would be outside of the legislative process. We were unfortunately unable to get there.
But when iFixit CEO Kyle Wiens took the mic, he responded to Brown with surprise.
In the last 12 months, we had 1.3 million Washingtonians use iFixit to learn how to repair everything from their kitchen appliances to their smartphones. We are enthusiastic about this legislation, and I commend everyone on the committee for their hard work on this over the last year in recess. Allowing everyone to have access to this is just absolutely critical. If you saw some of the language in these authorized manufacturer contracts, you'd realize why there's been so much pressure on making sure that there's open, available certifications. One thing that I'm really proud of, iFixit recently launched a partnership with Microsoft, where Microsoft is starting to make repair tools available to independent technicians. And a key part of that agreement was that Microsoft didn't get to dictate who had access to those tools. They said, we want you to provide them to professionals, and we'll allow an independent party to decide who's a professional. And I think that's the right approach, where you can separate a contractual obligation, where Apple is notorious for the contracts that they require technicians sign, where they have to make their customer list and privacy information available to the manufacturer to verify the contract. I don't think that's a reasonable requirement for a local repair shop.
Washingtonians across the political spectrum agree, according to new polling shared by Andrew Villanueva, executive director of the Northwest Progressive Institute.
A total of 69% of respondents said they supported the bill. When support is this high, in the high 60s, 70s, or above, it's evidence that the idea that we're researching enjoys robust and broad support across many different groups of voters. We do live in polarized times, but right to repair is something that most Washingtonians can enthusiastically get behind. So we urge you to give House Bill 1810 a due pass recommendation and move it forward.
If you're in Washington state and you want to help out, now is the time. Calling or writing your legislators is a great way to make your voice heard. At washington.repair.org, there's a form for you to email your repair story to your legislators, and a calling system that will connect you directly. In the US, every state with repair legislation under consideration has its own repair.org domain. Illinois.repair.org, California.repair.org, Nebraska.repair.org. If you're in the European Union, check out repair.eu. And in Australia, the Griffith University Law Future Centre hosts Repair Australia. In Canada, we love canrepair.ca. Thanks for your help fighting for right to repair, and happy fixing, everybody.